A popular social media influencer who went by the name Lamu was live streaming to over 400 of her followers when the unthinkable happened. She was murdered in front of everyone in the most horrific of ways. In this video, we're going to get into the story of Lamu and what happened and all of the outrage that followed. I just want to put out a quick disclaimer before we get started. This case was especially horrific and cruel. It made me really upset as I was researching it and really mad actually about how authorities handled everything. So I just want to put out that warning. It's pretty intense. If you don't think you can handle it, you might not want to watch this video. We'll see you in the next one. Otherwise, let's get into the story of Lamu and everything that happened. So for this story, it's going to take us to the Sichuan province in southwest China. This region is known for their spicy food and the Sichuan opera, known for fire breathing and mask changes that happen in split seconds. This region is also home to the giant panda. Over 30% of the world's giant pandas live in sanctuaries here. This is a really diverse region with beautiful cities and architecture and picturesque villages. But this story for us takes place in the mountains of this province, where Lamu lived with her family. Lamu was a 30-year-old Tibetan woman who was loved by everyone that knew her. She was close with her family. She had 2 sons who she loved very much. And she lived a quiet life in the mountains where she worked for herself as a farmer. She grew her own food, picked herbs, and she liked to cook and sing songs. She joined Douyin, the Chinese version of TikTok, where she got really popular from posting videos of her lifestyle where she was cooking, growing herbs, singing, and just sharing her culture. People really gravitated to her because it was refreshing with how natural she was. She didn't wear makeup, she lived off the land, she farmed her own food, and she was still really close to her ethnic background. Despite living in China, she would dress up in traditional Tibetan clothing and sing traditional songs and do dances. Although she had nearly 900,000 followers on Douyin that adored her and admired her lifestyle, there was a darkness around her that they could never know. She got married at 18 to a man named Tang Lu and had her first son. Several years later, she would give birth to another son, and her family would say that the boys were her life. She loved being a mother. Her favorite thing to do was spending time with her sons, and she would often include them in her vlogs. But sadly for Lamu and her family, the love and joy that she shared with her sons was not shared with her husband Tang. He was an abusive and angry man who would abuse her routinely. With the support of her family, she went to the police twice during the marriage to let them know that Tang was abusing her, only to be dismissed by the police and told that it was a family matter, so they weren't going to intervene. Something to note about China is they only just criminalized domestic abuse in 2016. It's estimated that up to 1 in 4 women in China are domestically abused, but honestly, I think that figure is probably much higher because a lot of women are scared to talk, especially since domestic abuse is a fairly new concept. Lamu was finally able to break free from Tang in May of 2020 when she was able to finalize a divorce. But sadly, this didn't last. Only a month later, Tang convinced her to remarry him because he told her if she didn't, he would kill their children. In that same month, the month of June, she would run away from him and divorce him for a final time. In the following months, Tang would beg her to remarry him, but she stood her ground and refused. This, though, would cost her her life. Tang went looking for her. He went to all of her family members demanding they tell him where she was. He beat up her sister so bad that she was in the hospital for 2 weeks from the beating. But sadly, it wouldn't take him very long to find her. On September 14th, 2020, at around 10:30 at night, Tang broke into Lamu's father's house where she was staying. She was in the kitchen doing a live stream to over 400 of her followers when Tang came in behind her, held a knife to her neck, and doused her with gasoline. He then did the unthinkable by lighting her on fire in front of hundreds of people to see. She was transported to the hospital after suffering burns on over 90% of her body. Her family reached out to her followers on social media for help with medical expenses, and they were able to raise over 1 million yen. But the vicious attack proved to be too much, and after just 2 weeks in the hospital, she passed away. Fortunately for justice, Tang would be arrested the same night of the attack on suspicion of intentional homicide. News of Lamu's death sparked outrage on social media in China. Women were furious with how authorities turned her away. Women were standing up against the concept that domestic violence is a private family matter, but it is instead a crime and should be prosecuted as such. Following her death, over 70 million people have used the hashtag mentioning her. Her case has brought people to call for more help and security for women who are victims of domestic abuse. Following her death, even celebrity Chinese actress Li Bingbing spoke on the matter, saying, "Don't be indifferent, don't stay silent. Domestic violence is not a family matter, it is a crime." Tang would be found guilty of murder, and he would be executed shortly after. I really have to give China credit for the quickness with getting this monster off the planet. They are lagging in the domestic abuse category, but they really wiped him off the earth quickly, and we appreciate that. Overall, this was a really sad case. It really breaks my heart that she wasn't able to get the help and protection whenever she went out, and she actually had the courage to ask for it. And it's comforting to know that this case was able to shed some light on the domestic abuse problems that's plaguing China right now, and women who are having trouble getting out of bad relationships and getting away from men that want to control them and hurt them. And they're actually getting help, they're getting support, and I think that's really important. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.